Hello. Good evening. It is Monday, February 29th, Leap Day 2016. Welcome to 3 Drink Minimum. I am Chrissy Mayer. Joining me tonight, the hilarious JC Knows Best.
Yeah, what up? Is it a leap day or is it a leap year?
It's a leap day. And
Really?
today is leap day, and this whole year is leap year.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Funky, I like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And to the side of JC is the wonderful Frank Pellegrino.
Oh, thank you. So it's like today's like doesn't count for anything. It's like an extra day.
No, anything that happens today
Stays on this day.
Stays on today.
And isn't remembered for 4 years.
Yeah, you're allowed to murder someone today if you want.
Good.
Ha!
It's like the cleansing.
Yeah. Also, very special co-host Chris Vaccarelli in the house.
Yeah. Did you call him co-host?
Did you call him special?
Special, yeah. These words are yeah, sure. Well, it can be
Is
special.
he a co-host?
Is he a co-host?
Chris, do you want to be a co-host?
I feel like I'm pressuring you into anal sex. Like,
You don't have to pressure me into that.
oh shit. Well, I listened to your cunnilingus bit
Oh,
last
did you?
week, so
Thank you.
now I'm interested.
Yes.
And to his side, Tom Grassi.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thank you.
Oh, you're sharing a lava lady.
Yep,
right.
yep. It's just
You guys are
He's
intimate.
being real soft because the teacher's situation, he can't, reveal himself. Is it Grassi? Is he Daniels? Who the fuck are you, dude?
no. I'm talking into the mic.
Oh, I see.
He wants to whisper into Vaccarelli's
Talking
chest.
Oh, he
into
doesn't have
pocket.
his own mic.
Sweet.
And the most special person on the show tonight, the fabulous, the illustrious Jeffrey Gurian is in the house.
Yeah. Buddy.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah. Thank
We're
you.
so happy to have you. We were supposed to have Jeffrey come on a couple weeks ago, but there was a horrible snowstorm, so we had to reschedule to
And I
today.
appreciate it so much that you canceled because I was actually going to try to drive up in that ice because I hate to cancel anything, but
It was
weather
bad.
had other ideas. Yeah, it was horrible.
It was so
just
bad.
horrible.
We were talking to somebody actually died that night. Like
Yes,
somebody died.
yes. Up in Westchester, there was a car accident and a young woman was killed because of the icy roads.
Wow.
So we were smart not to do it.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
And definitely their podcast didn't happen that night, I guess.
For sure.
Ouch.
So I could tell by the language already that this is being live streamed to the Vatican.
Ah,
That's right.
Yeah, great.
yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we have a lot of little
I was an
kids
altar
watching.
boy, so.
I felt at home right away.
Speaking of anal sex.
Speaking of anal sex, guys, the brackets came out for Caroline's March Madness. Did you see them? Did you see who's up for this? It's kind of exciting. Like the first couple years that this came out, I was like, how do they pick these people? Why am I not on it? I still feel that way. However, now this year, I know that they pick these people based on like if they've already done the Carolines, what's the mega bringer called? The new talent, the breakout artist.
Yeah.
Sounds like I'm on the beach.
Yeah, what is that?
Vaccarelli's breathing a little harder.
He had to walk 10 feet to get over here. So.
Wait a minute. Hold
It's all that anal sex.
Oh, it's that love? Oh, really? Wow.
Hold up. You're saying that the brackets for the March Madness at Caroline's is based on a bringer? Nah.
Yes and no. I mean, the people that do that, I think, are eligible to be part of it.
You know what I
But-
heard? You know what I heard it's
What'd you
based
hear?
on?
What?
Dick size?
Are you trying to do a sound effect?
Did you bring your own sound effects?
Yes, I did.
That's commendable.
I don't think that's commendable.
So you're saying that it's based on who sucks whose dick? Is that
No,
what
not
you're saying?
really, because I didn't see your name up there.
Oh.
Yeah.
I could outsuck dicks more than anybody on this whole paper.
Well, past winners are Michael Che, Adam Newman, Mark Norman, Gary Veter, Anthony DeVito won it last year.
Those are all great names.
They are.
Gary's funny. We did a show with him.
And it's a
last
panel of
week.
industry judges will determine who advances and is eventually crowned the champion, and the winner receives a cash prize and a chance to perform in the New York Comedy Festival in November.
Ooh.
Unless they could just get on Chrissy Mayer's show, and then they're in the New York Comedy Festival.
My show is in it.
What's the cash
Dope.
prize? How much money are we talking?
It doesn't say, but this has been going on for a long time, and it's popular. It's a
It's the
fun
dawn of
idea.
time. Mm-hmm.
And the first round is 1 minute.
Whew.
So a bunch of us actually took the brackets
we
and
did
filled
30
them out
seconds.
ourselves
We filled them out.
with our predictions, just like an NCAA tournament bracket.
Duke.
And I'm going to tell you, I'm taking Tim Dillon all the way.
I'm going North Carolina.
I had Emma going all the way.
Tom Grossi, you got Emma going all the way too.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
You feel strongly about Emma.
So I think by the end of the night, maybe we'll all finish filling these in.
Very funny.
We'll put them in an envelope and see who gets the most points at the end of it, because this goes until March 29th. It's once a week on Tuesdays until then.
I voted for Brian Grossi to get past the first round just because he shared this.
Just because he's
That's literally the only reason.
Brian Grossi's on that
Here,
list.
JC, check it out.
the Grossi.
Yeah, I saw the list. I have to be honest.
I
I was completely unimpressed.
I saw
You know, there's a
Daniel
couple
with
names.
these all these people.
There's a couple names on there, but
I
you
mean,
know,
Suba's on here. She's good. I had Aaron Berg going pretty far.
Ehrenberg is a name. All right,
Corinne is on here.
there we go.
You're not. That's your
Jeff,
unimpressed
did you see
tone of
this?
No,
voice.
I
Yeah, but I
like
gotta tell you,
Corinne.
I was
fuck
so
with Corinne.
confused. I thought you just wanted me to read it. I didn't know we were supposed to make choices.
Yeah,
I'm like,
fill it
what the
out.
fuck? I'm supposed to just read this?
You know,
Yeah,
reading it is good.
I can't even. My ADD is so bad. I literally cannot figure out how this works. You're gonna have to show me later.
Oh,
You're not a big
Like,
sports
how to
fan.
figure it. I know zero about. I know about Schwartz is what I know. That's my specialty. Wide world of Schwartz. Sports is elusive to me.
Gotcha.
I don't understand why people would rather sit and watch someone else do something rather than do it themselves.
Jeff, I'm looking at the list. I'm like, this is unimpressive. I don't give a fuck about another comic. What
No,
do
but
I
I'm talking
care?
about sports. Like, in this country, people, they spend their lives watching other people play a game, man. It's like sex. You want to watch or you want to do it?
both.
Sports is. I mean, now come on. Listen, Michael Jordan. He's a titan. That doesn't interest you. This guy who's killing it this year, Golden State. What's his name?
Cam Newton?
Cam Newton.
Cam-
He fucking says Cam Newton. No, Golden State Warriors basketball.
Oh, I don't know. See,
Steph
that's how
Curry-
little I know.
Jeff, he's excited. It's
I like
exciting to
extreme
watch.
sports. I like martial arts, stuff like that, like mixed martial arts.
Jeff, the guy
Not
comes down.
boxing so much,
He
but-
comes down the court and he shoots at the half court line and he makes it. Just like that's what he does. That's not
I like
exciting.
individual people who are great at what they do. Teams of men banging into each other. I could go on the subway.
I love that.
Jeff is a pimp from way back,
I
and you
don't-
couldn't tell by his his attire.
I got too much shit to do to sit around watching men bang into each other. It's like
It's so interesting that you say that. Jeff was like, I care about like one other person, right? Like, because Jeffrey drove me here. I met him at his apartment, and first of all, I go up to his apartment. I'm so impressed that anyone lives by themselves that I'm just like blown away by that alone. And you look at the walls, and it's like a comedy museum. There's just pictures of him and everybody he's met. It's like it's really incredible. I suggest everybody go and see it.
And in
But-
some of the pictures, I even let someone else be in the picture.
Hilarious.
They're not just of me.
And then you were saying like you don't like to collect autographs because that's kind of fake. That you just like moments with people, and that's why you have all these like moments.
Well, it's very special. My life has been like a movie, and I can't really. It doesn't seem real, and so I'm not the kind of person who would collect autographs. It's not interesting to me. What I collect is energy. I always admire people who are successful, who do well at something that I admire, and so comedy has always been a thing for me. And for whatever reason, I got to meet some of the biggest stars in comedy and work with them. And, like if you meet somebody in a large group of people, there's a chance that they don't really know that you're there. Like 10 people are surrounding somebody. Everyone says hello, they shake your hand. They may not really be aware of your presence. But if you're alone with them, just one-on-one, unless they're insane, they have to know that you're there.
right.
And in that moment, I would take a picture because we're exchanging energy on a real level. And it meant something to me. It was just very interesting. And I wound up with this huge collection of photos with people that I really admire. And they go back a lot of years.
Right, you can have a picture with all of us.
Well, I hope so. That would be very cool.
They do go back a lot of years. The very first person that Jeffrey met was you were actually on the set of his Broadway show, Mr. Woody Allen.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Can I say something
And
about
he-
that?
All those years ago.
I am a big fan of your short film.
I am Woody.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
Chris, hand that to him.
Yes.
Yeah, that was actually. I Googled
I had a
this.
lot of. You had a lot of good actors on there. Victor Argo was a
Victor
great.
Argo was a great actor.
He's a great
and when
actor.
he passed away,
Yes,
unfortunately, Harvey Keitel came to pay his respects because
They were good
so
friends.
close.
Yeah, they were
They
good
were very
friends.
good friends.
I used to write screenplays. That's why.
Oh, really? That's how you know?
And Bobby Finaro was in your movie. He's a great actor. You
Bobby
can see this
Funaro
guy.
is in Empire, in Vinyl.
Yes.
Did
yeah.
you see him in
Yes,
Vinyl?
Yes.
He's a great,
Bobby's a really good guy.
And he
too.
used to work at Caroline's Comedy Club. Did you know him then, in those days?
Yes.
We go back many, many years.
Paul Cicero was in your movie.
Absolutely.
Gentle
Awesome.
giant.
Paul Cicero, the wrestler.
Great guy, man.
Great guy.
He died, you know. Early.
I heard he
Yeah.
did also. Yeah, he passed away also.
Chris, how long you been following Jeff?
What? Well, I don't know. I'm not following him.
Well, you
Don't make it sound creepy. He was
I
trying to
usually
say-
follow.
I mean, you know your
talking.
Yes, I
you know
do.
good. You know
I,
your shit.
You know I wrote scripts. You know I was in the
course,
screenwriting. I only
of
started
course.
comedy a year and a half ago because I was done with the scripts. So then I decided to write for myself on stage. But I was in the, you know, I know all the guys that he's got another movie. What's the other one coming? The new one with Mike Starr and all those guys.
Men of Violence.
Yes.
Awesome.
John Gallagher is directing it. It's my
Yes.
first non-comedy project
Right.
What's that
that
about?
I wrote. It's a crazy story. It's an action martial arts gangster film, and there's comedy in it, but it's real.
Right.
It's kind of like a Pulp Fiction in the sense that in Pulp Fiction the violence was very real,
Yeah.
but there was comedic moments that were
Yes.
also very real.
Yeah.
If you don't keep it real, it becomes slapstick. It's bullshit. It's,
Word.
it's messed up.
I-
So it's about
yeah.
a plastic surgeon who's obsessed with violence, and he does a lot of boob jobs on strippers. And this stripper,
Obviously, you're playing that role. I'm guessing.
Who's playing him? William Forsythe?
it's supposed to be this guy Steve Stanulus.
Okay.
William Forsythe is also attached to it, by
Right,
the way.
right.
Sweet.
And this stripper is dating a mob boss who has a lot of scars on his face. And this plastic surgeon, she brings him to have the scars removed. And he does such a great job that this mob boss tells him, you know, I know you never expected to have a friend like me, but if you ever need me, I'm there for you. Wow. You know? And then a short time after, this plastic surgeon accidentally kills that guy's son.
Whoa.
He's in a restaurant with his wife, and there's a mob shootout. And in order to save his wife, he has to pull his own gun, and he kills the two mob guys that are shooting people, and he kills this mob guy's son. And
This is a full-length feature film.
It's a
That you
full-length
did. When is it
feature
coming
film.
out? When is it slated to come out?
well, it's in pre-production. They're still casting it. They've attached several big names to it already.
Yeah.
And what happens is this plastic surgeon has to go up against the mob. So it's different because he's not a street guy. He's an
Right.
educated guy.
Yeah.
But he's into martial arts and guns, and he has to become the baddest motherfucker on the planet
Nice.
in order to save his family. And so it's a cool story, and I put in a lot of my old stories.
Yeah.
So you're the main
When I used
writer
to
for
hang
the
out.
writer. And
I am the
producer?
writer. Yeah, it's my
Dope.
my whole thing, my
Me,
idea.
me and a buddy of mine, Al Linney, he was on Boardwalk Empire on a lot of shows. We wrote a script, a mob script, which was like, we got so close so many times, big budget, everything. And we had a guy that, I forget his name now, but he's in Hollywood. They bring him to fix mafia scripts.
Oh, really?
Okay, authenticize
So
it.
particular.
So he read our script, and we had a meeting with him down in the village. He said, I wouldn't touch a friggin' word of this. That's how real it is. He goes, I'm actually a little scared to be sitting here with you guys.
Isn't that cool? You know, I had that experience with Paul Sorvino many years ago. He's an old
I know
friend.
him. Yeah.
When
know
I
him.
saw him in Goodfellas, I was, for some reason, I was supposed to call him that day. His part was so real that I was nervous to call him. And when I called him, I told him that. He said, Schmuck, I'm in a movie. I'm an actor. And I was like, I know, but you were so real. I feel like I'm calling Big Paul.
Hilarious.
It's like I was literally nervous to call him. That's how scary
You want to
he
hear a
was in
funny
that
thing
part.
about Paul Sorvino? My daughter was friends with this girl from school,
Yeah.
and I had to go pick her up at the house. It was Paul Sorvino's granddaughter.
Really?
So me and him kind of like talked a lot. I used to go to the house a lot. And I asked him, I said, who was the best mafia actor that you ever seen like do a part? And I was surprised by what he said. Remember the Raging Bull?
Sure.
Remember the guy from Cheers? The old man?
I don't know. That I don't
Remember
know.
Cheers, the older guy? He was like Woody's uncle or whatever.
Okay.
First. I
All right.
use a young, you best.
I know Cheers,
And that's who-
motherfucker.
and that's who he picked.
And that's
as
who
the
he
best
picked out of
mafia
anybody. I was very surprised
Really?
that that's who he picked.
actor. How interesting.
Yeah,
Paul is a great guy.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in his presence when he starts to sing opera?
he's unbelievable.
He just
Yeah.
blasted out. I produced a gala in honor of Susie Essman about a year and a half ago, and 400 people came, and Paul was there. He was also being honored for the Long Island International Film Festival, and he's such a great character, larger than life.
Yes.
You know, just an amazing.
Yeah, he was a
amazing
really
guy.
nice dude. We ate like crazy, as you could say, but yeah, he was surprised my daughter knew what like gabagool was and all that shit.
Do you know John Hoyt, the guy who played Woody Allen in
Yes,
that movie?
yes, yeah.
Big John?
Yeah, Big John. Marotta, what's his name? The other guy, Daniel Marotta,
No, it's not Marotta. I know who
Magnata, or something like that. He was in a lot of stuff too. Yeah, he had a lot of good actors.
I can't
yeah,
think of
yeah,
his last
Danny.
name. Danny, but
I don't even know how you keep everybody straight, Jeffrey. Like he's interviewed over 200 people.
400.
400? Clearly my Googling
It's over to
It's
is
okay.
crusty.
You ever been interviewed by
Somewhere
5 people at once before?
Have I ever been interviewed or interviewed?
Interviewed by 5 people before.
No, but it's
Oh,
an interesting
that's what's happening now.
concept to me. Yeah, it's actually very cool.
I want to do a rapid fire round because I think we have some curiosities about everybody that you've interviewed. Who surprised you the most?
Those questions are always hard for me. It's like, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite book? I don't even have answers for that. No one surprises me. I'm just, I think, I was surprised that I got the interview with Steve Carell because I didn't expect to see him on the red carpet. I think it was a big event for Comedy Central, and I turned around and he was right next to me, and I was flabbergasted for a minute. I kind of lost my thing because I've always really liked Steve Carell, and I usually prepare. You get something called a tip sheet that tells you who's going to be on the red carpet, and his name wasn't there, or I didn't see it, and I just didn't expect it. And I felt like a little high school girl. I was nervous,
Okay,
But,
Steve Carell. So, who was like the bitchiest? Who was like kind of cunty to you?
Cunty to Jeff Gurian?
Or just cunty to the world and you happen to be
Cunty
there?
to Jeff Gurian?
Well, I was going to say nobody, but if you ever see the Larry David interview, that was really weird because he kind of, he doesn't like to be interviewed.
Not
and
at
he
all.
didn't expect to see me on the red carpet. And
Does he know who you are?
Well, I had just run into him at the airport. I was flying to Florida with my daughter, and she said to me, she goes, I just saw Larry David. And I'm like, get out of here, really? And of all the people, people say that I know everybody in comedy, and I didn't know Larry David. So our paths never really crossed. Seinfeld's in my book, and all these people that he was close with are in my book about the comic strip. So I leave her, and I'm walking through the airport, and I see a guy that looks just like Larry David, and I'm like, she's wrong. It's not Larry David. And then 2 seconds later, there's Larry David is there. So I went over to talk to him, and I told him about my book, and he gave me his contact information so I could send it to him. And he was actually very nice. So we were at this event. It was part of the New York Comedy Festival. And he was there, and I think Jerry and Amy Schumer. And it was the first time that Larry had performed in many years. And he did the red carpet, and I was positioned at the end. And so when he got to me, we started talking, and I said something that turned him off. It was like, I said to him, seriously? And he's like, serious? Am I being serious? Am I serious? And then I said to him, well, there's still a lot of, I said, what's left for you? You've conquered everything. And he said, no, there are still a lot of women I have to conquer. That's like that. And then it was
Nice.
fine. So we talked about it on Sirius because everybody said, Jeffrey, you really kept your cool when he was like that. Because he overreacted to something I said. Because
this
he
is
didn't
not-
want to be interviewed in the first place.
This is who Larry David. We all know him as a jerk. Not a jerk, but we all know him as
Cunty.
kind of like an asshole. And that's his persona.
He can be very weird like that. If he doesn't want to talk to you, he gets very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. You would think, look, when I did the book, Richie Tinkin told me that when he used to come out on stage, if he didn't like the way the audience was reacting, he'd throw down the mic and storm off the stage in the middle of his set. So
That's how I feel sometimes. I swear to God.
one night, to play a trick on him, they glued the mic into the stand.
No!
And he couldn't get it out. And he was going crazy. Because Richie said these mics are expensive. And every night he's throwing the mic on the floor.
No!
Yeah, so Richie told me that story, and I thought it was hilarious.
This is Make 'Em Laugh, the comic strip book you wrote?
Yeah, the book that Chris Rock wrote the introduction for it.
Right.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We're talking about the history of the comic strip here with this book.
1976, June 1st of 1976. And on June 17th, Jerry Seinfeld walked into audition.
Wow.
And we even have his original slip is in the book. In those days, when you walked in, they would grade you. Well, first of all, the club was brand new. there had only been the Improv. The Improv opened in 1963. Bud
Yep.
Friedman opened that. Then there wasn't, and it didn't start as a comedy club. It was a coffee house.
Right.
And they had singers, and the Broadway people would come by after the show and come and hang out. And then after a couple of years, Bud realized that people were coming more for comedy than anything else, and he turned it into the world's first comedy club, but strictly comedy.
Right.
And it wasn't until the end of '72 that Rick Newman opened Catch a Rising Star. So those were the two major clubs for a long time. And then the Strip opened. Richie told me the story that he had a bartender named Tony DeAndrea who did impressions. And he was doing a set at Catch a Rising Star one night, on a Monday night. Richie was never in the club business. He owned bars in the Bronx. So he figured Monday night was a really slow night. He could go and see this guy Tony perform because he wanted people to come down. So he brought about 14 or 15 people with him. And the place was packed. He goes, there was lines around the block in those days. Catch was a phenomenon, right? So they go in and everybody's drinking and hours are passing and Tony's not going on stage. So Tony went up to Rick Newman and he's like, I have all these people here. They want to know when I'm going to go on. And Rick's like, you'll go on when I tell you to go on.
Oh.
And if you don't like it, you can leave, right? So
Sounds about right.
Richie was fascinated by the fact that there were so many people on a Monday night, and it gave him the thought that maybe there was room for a second comedy club. And it was Rick Newman that gave him the inspiration. And I interviewed Rick for the book, and it was so cool because I brought the two of them together and took pictures of them, these guys with white hair. And Richie told Rick that he had been his inspiration and his idol. And it was a very cool moment that I was there to share that with
I don't
him.
think people understand how real that is because Richie, for him to have an idol that he can speak up.
Look,
Anyone who knows Richie knows.
He managed Eddie Murphy, man.
And Chris Rock, right?
Well, he didn't manage Chris, but he discovered Chris.
Right.
When Chris came in '86, he was managing Eddie at the time.
Oof.
And, I mean, how much more credibility do you need on your resume than to be Eddie Murphy's
Just the
manager?
baddest motherfucker in the 80s, Eddie Murphy.
And that story was, Eddie needed somebody to manage him, and he asked Richie, and Richie turned him down because Richie's like, I don't have experience in managing anybody. He didn't want the responsibility.
Right.
But Eddie had said that, at first he tried to go with a black manager, and he said that everybody was taking advantage of him. No one treated him right. So Eddie's mother said to him, who do you trust most in the world? And he said, I trust Richie. She said, then go ask him. And so he appealed to him, and after a couple of weeks, Richie gave in and decided that he would manage him. And already he goes, he hardly had to do anything because Eddie was a born star.
Wow.
He goes, so right away, he was dealing with the top people in Hollywood. They wound up with an office on the Paramount lot. And he was dealing with the biggest producers in Hollywood because Eddie had that kind of talent.
Wow.
So
Richie, Richie can pick up on energy. He knows, he doesn't mince words. He does not give a fuck. He will tell you exactly how he feels. Chrissy, we talked about that, right? Because of the late night editions. He's honest.
Yeah.
He does not lie, dude. He doesn't lie. I love it.
I hosted late night for almost 2 years. Me and Jordan Rock.
Wow.
We were the last hosts. We were the first and last hosts because they never had hosts for late night.
Not really.
But they made me and Jordan
DF
hosts.
was doing it for a little
Richie.
bit, but he's not really doing
Don't
it.
they just pass the
he
mic
teaches the
now?
comedy class, but I don't think he
He was for a minute. He wasn't really hosting. He was just starting it off, I guess.
He actually used to come and perform on late night once in a while. He'd
Yeah.
come and do a spot.
Yeah.
After so many years, I always wondered why he would do late night, but he
Yeah.
liked to work out new material, I guess.
Jeffrey, I have a question. You've written for so many huge names: Richard Belzer, Phil Hartman, Pat Cooper. Who was your favorite person?
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers. Who was your favorite person to write for?
Rodney, for sure.
Really?
Dangerfield, baby.
That was such a cool thing, writing for Rodney and hanging out with him in the club. I mean, it was amazing. We would go down to his dressing room, and he would be wearing just a bathrobe and pajamas. And not a nice bathrobe and pajamas, just like a regular bathrobe and pajamas. And he would tell me jokes. He'd be like, Jeff, what's the difference between Jews and Italians? And I'm like, I don't know, Rodney, what's the difference? He goes, they both take a leak in the sink, but the Jews take the dishes out first.
Nice.
And he was like, I remember one night we were talking about being hip, and he's like, Jeff, you know who's hip? I'm like, who's hip, Rodney? 2 guys in the village. That was it. That's such a hip line. 2 guys in the village. I had told Paul Schaefer that line.
Besides Jeff, actually saw Rodney Dangerfield perform? Nobody, right?
You saw him?
Fuck yeah.
Wow.
Well, then.
It's all this gray. I saw him in Vegas.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Just
he
hanging
told
out with him.
He told one joke. My wife wanted me to make a scream during sex, so I wiped my dick on the curtains.
Oh, that's funny.
And then,
He did.
But he was so quick that you couldn't. I remember 2 jokes from that night. That's it. Because he was just so.
He had a million jokes. When I used to help him, I helped him prepare for the Tonight Show, and I would write jokes. And he would send me checks in the mail. In those days, he paid $50 a joke, which was unheard of. Because Joan Rivers would pay people $5. And he would pay $50 a joke because it was so hard to write for him. You'd have to write tons of jokes. And the first joke I ever wrote for him, he wound up doing it on his album, No Respect. You know, and he always had these stock lines of the way he would start a joke. He go, you know, I'm all right now, but last week was rough. You know, he says, you know, I only date ugly girls. He said, I went out with this one girl who was so ugly, I bent down to pet her cat. It was the hair on her legs. She was a very ugly girl. So that was my joke, and that was the first joke he sent me a check for. And he goes, hair on her legs. You know, and, you know.
Oh, like the subject of the check is like
the
the
joke.
joke?
On the check, right? Hair, you know.
So funny.
How was Joan? She was
Joan was amazing.
Wow.
She was such a kind and sweet person. She was also so fun. Those were the 2 really special people that I got to work with.
Yeah.
I used to go to her house. The first time I met her, it was so interesting because I thought she knew about my other life. I used to be a cosmetic dentist also. And I never used to tell anybody, you know. And I thought she knew because we had met at the Friars because I used to write for the Friars Roast for many years. And her manager contacted me and she said, Joan wants to talk to you about writing for her. So she invited me to her home, and most people don't treat writers that nicely. You know, they treat them kind of like low on the totem pole.
You ain't kidding.
So I thought maybe she was treating me like a doctor. She knew about my other world. So when I showed up at her house, her doorman said to me, you'll have to wait a couple of minutes because Joan just sprained her ankle and she's in a lot of pain. And I thought to myself, wow, this is amazing. I could write her a prescription for painkillers. No other comedy writer could do that.
Unbelievable.
And then I'll be a hero and she'll hire me, right?
Get the pills.
So when I finally go upstairs, she introduces me to everyone as Mr. Gurian, and I realized she didn't know. So I didn't say a word. We had this meeting. It was great, and she decided that she wanted to work with me, and I called Rory Rosegarten, and he handled the deal for me, you know? And so I was under contract to her. And she was so nice. And as a matter of fact, the last time I saw her was up at Sirius XM. She had just come out with her book, Diary of a Mad Diva, that she wrote with Larry Amorose. And he came up with her to the show. And they knew that I used to write for her, so they surprised her by bringing me into the green room to see her.
Wow.
And it was so nice. I hadn't seen her since the Just for Laughs Festival the year before. She was performing up there, and she gave me a big hug, and I was asking her about her book, and she was asking me about my book. And she was asking me very insightful questions about my book. Who was the most interesting interview? And I said to her, Joan, I'll get you a copy of the book. She goes, absolutely not. She goes, I want to buy a copy because I want to support you in the book. And she had her assistant take a picture of the book cover so she could order a copy. That's the kind of person
top
she
class.
Yeah,
top
exactly.
Class.
It would have been so easy to say, yeah, of course, just give me a book. But she's like, that's not what she was like. She goes, I want to support you in the book.
Chrissy, we actually have not given our guests a proper introduction to who Jeff is. Why don't we take a commercial, come back, and let's do that.
Let's take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, what do you think?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Okay.
All right, we're clear.
Jeff, remember Connie Selica?
Bulletproof has always been about identifying and taking advantage of every single thing that makes people perform better. When you drink it, you just don't care about food. No cravings, no hunger for 4 to 6 hours, and you feel a kind of mental clarity that you probably haven't felt in years.
Have you heard of Bulletproof coffee? I tried it today. I feel pretty good.
If you're a fan of hookah and shisha, go to hookahshisha.com We love hookahs and hookah products. We have great customer service, extremely fast shipping and packaging, a great selection with most asked for and most exclusive brands and products. Lowest price is guaranteed and will price match any lower advertised price. HookahShisha.com is the first online retailer of hookahs and hookah products and strives to remain the best. HookahShisha.com has the world's largest selection with 100% satisfaction guaranteed and a 30-day no-hassle return policy. Order ships within 24 hours or less with a focus on proper packaging to keep your hookah shisha products intact upon delivery. Use discount code ZEN, that's Z-E-N, for 15% off your next purchase. HookahShisha.com, your only stop for hookah and shisha products online.
Are you a smoker and you need to quit, but you're discouraged because it's harder than some like to admit? Favorite white plains vapor. Favorite white plains vapor. Are you a non-smoker but you like to do the tricks? Well, these are non-toxic clouds that exit your lips. Favorite white plains. Oh yeah. Yeah. White Plains Vapors, located at 210 Mamaroneck Avenue in White Plains, New York. Visit our location and choose from a wide selection of exotic flavors.
You're watching the Zadaza Entertainment Network on ZenLive.tv.
And welcome back to 3 Drink Minimum Leap Day Edition. Guys, we have someone very special in the studio. He's kind of a legend. He has written for Joan Rivers, Rodney Dangerfield, so many others. He's interviewed over 400 celebrities, everybody from Jimmy Fallon to Jon Stewart to Kevin Hart,
To
Lisa
Steve Carell.
to Steve Carell. Yeah.
Milton Berle.
Milton Berle.
How about
Woody Allen.
Woody
Milton
Allen.
Berle's Little Berle?
Woody Allen
The
was
legendary Burl.
was his first person to inspire him to keep going with comedy. Co-host with Patrice O'Neill. My God, like a former dentist. Currently appeared on the Kroll Show. Man, like the credits, we could keep going. We really could. Guys, put your hands together. 3 Drink Minimum guests for Mr. Jeffrey Gurian.
Yeah, buddy.
Jeffrey, I got a question from what we were talking about earlier. And you've written for so many people, but you also perform stand-up.
Yeah.
And you're a good stand-up comedian.
Thank you.
When you were writing these jokes for Rodney and Joan and all these people, were you ever like kind of torn on whether you wanted to use these jokes for yourself, or that didn't bite you until more recently?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I didn't start performing till recent years.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear stopped me. And I was talking about that recently. You know, if you start in stand-up when you're in your 20s, it's okay to bomb because nobody knows you yet. Right. So you have the freedom to go out and learn how to do it. By the time I got up the courage to go out on stage, I knew so many people in comedy. There was a tremendous amount of pressure for me because people knew me as a writer. And then it's like being Chris Rock's brother or somebody like famous' brother. How do you step into that? So I had to be... It took me a long time to get the courage to go out on stage. And I would be writing these jokes. I mean, theoretically, one comedian should not be able to do another comic's jokes. They should be that personal.
Yeah.
So I appreciated my sense of humor, but I didn't know if I could get out and do it. And I had always wanted to do it. It never occurred to me to get out on stage. The longer you wait, the harder it is, man. It's like when I see kids that are in their 20s or younger than that going out on stage, I'm like, that's the time to do it. But everyone has a path in life, and you can't change that, you know?
What pushed you to finally get up on stage and do it? And stop? I mean, do you still write for anybody else?
The last person I wrote for was George Wallace, and I wrote for Dice Clay, man. Dice called me recently. Yeah, he said I'm one of the few people that ever wrote for him. He did my stuff in Las Vegas, but the first time I wrote for him, he did my stuff at the Comedy Store right off the paper. He goes, this shit is so good, I don't want to wait to learn it. I want to do it right now.
That's awesome.
Wow. And that was crazy. That was crazy. He calls me 3 in the morning. I had a heart attack recently. I don't know if I told you guys that.
Yeah, December.
And he called me up and he goes, get better quick, fuckface. He called me 3 in the morning. That's how he woke me up. And I'm like, Dice, what's up, man? Is that crazy, right?
Jeff, do you okay, so you don't...
But that was a very good question, because I would see these jokes, Frank, and I would say to myself, I should be up there, but I didn't have the nerve to do it. That's the truth.
How old were you when you first went up?
Well, I went up, nobody knows my age. I never own age, but I did it. I'd say I started about maybe 10 years ago, but then I stopped for a while. It's in the last year or two that I've been performing what I consider a lot. I'm on stage a few times a week. Like this Wednesday, I'm headlining at New York Comedy Club.
With Von DeCarlo, with
Patrice's wife.
Ex-wife, yeah. Or not ex-wife, but wife, you know, there you go.
Dan Lamort.
Now,
is going to open, and then Von, and then me.
Do you feel pressure being Jeffrey Gurian, that everyone knows who you are in comedy? You write about comedy, you go to comedy, you have all these great articles that you write. Do you feel more pressure being you on stage, almost like people are looking at you, like there's more of a spotlight on you?
Yeah, I do feel it. I mean, you know, and like I don't really see myself in a true light, and I don't know that anybody does. We all have an image of how we perceive ourselves, but you don't know how other people perceive you. And I have this little 3-minute video called "Who the Fuck is Jeffrey Gurian?" Because it's funny to me that people think, you know, like Mulaney says, you know, if you see somebody and you don't know who that is, and you go, "Who the fuck is that?" That's Jeffrey Gurian.
Hilarious.
And it strikes me funny. And Kroll says, you know, these are guys that are killing it in the business. They're so talented. The fact that I even know them is such an honor to me. And they've been so kind to me, and they put me in stuff. And
who was making fun of your hair in that video?
Jeff, you got to look about you. You do. You got to look. It's the hair. What's up? What is up with the look anyway? What?
Electricity and Viagra, man.
Electricity. I've never seen you without a scarf. You always rock a scarf.
He has
is that a
200 scarves in his
Is that a
signature?
Yeah, she saw my scarf. Yeah. You know what it is, man? Most comedians, especially, most men wear their hair like they're embarrassed for having any.
Nice.
It's almost like an apology. Like, I'm sorry I have hair, and I'll try and wear it in a way that you don't notice.
Like Tommy Grassi wears his hair like that.
Well, for some reason, like it's an annoyance to most men to have hair or to dress in a certain way.
That's kind of true.
But since I'm a kid, like most comedians look like they're competing to look like who's most homeless.
It's true.
And it's like
I'm doing a hell of a job right now. Actually,
it's one of the things that kept me off stage for a long time. I didn't have old enough clothing.
Yeah.
And I have to really dress down before I go on stage. I take off the scarves and shit because it's distracting to people. Because my look is distracting to begin with.
It is. It's
so
a lot.
People are trying to figure out, like, where's his band?
It's
like,
true.
Why is he on stage doing comedy? He must be, you know, a band leader or something. Or you know. Everyone thinks I'm in the music business.
Right.
Even my parents think I'm in the music business.
You look eccentric. You look like, you know, like you're off
people
in your
want me
own
to
world.
be in vinyl. I'm getting a petition together. A lot of people said that I should really be in vinyl, and I got to get to Scorsese and let him see it, because that would be a perfect show for me.
But you listen, it's funny you say that, because men do. They downplay their dress and stuff. But
from the time I was a kid, I was always into my hair. I was one of those weird kids that looked in the car windows and I was walking by and make sure I liked my hair and shit. I don't know what that was about, but it's been my whole life. My mother dressed me, and she made me very conscious of my appearance.
A lot of people would say, is he gay? With that type of, those type of instincts.
My mother thought I was gay because I dyed my hair blonde and wore bleach jeans. Me and my friend Stevie, we were the first two guys. Nobody did shit like that. I went out one day and I came home blonde, man. I wanted to be a beach boy, and she thought we were gay.
But on the contrary, you're a fucking pimp,
But
dude.
JC,
On the contrary.
that's totally different. We think you're gay too.
That's not for me
You
to
don't have
say.
to think. How many times have we fucked, Chris? Exactly. Shut up. Listen, Jeff, you Patrice co-signed you as a ladies' man. If Patrice
He said I was a level 12 pimp, but I wear that proudly because it came from Patrice.
How many levels
Exactly.
are there?
I don't know. I think 10.
I think there's only 10 levels.
Right.
You know,
It's true.
Patrice co-signs it. It's
That's
legit.
yeah.
And they interviewed Jeff recently. He was telling me in the car on the way up, they're interviewing a lot of people. They're doing I guess a documentary about
Yeah, it's called
Patrice.
Better Than You.
Yeah.
Called Better
Yeah.
Than You. And you were saying, Jeffrey, that your interview that you gave was different from everybody else's because you guys. Do you want to talk about your?
We had a
special-
very special relationship. And, you know, it's interesting to me to see it on the outside. Most guys feel the need to put each other down. That's how guys fuck around with each other.
Definitely.
It's like a roast. Every time you're together,
All the time.
people are throwing shit at each
Comics,
other.
male comics.
I
of
happen
course.
not to like that.
Really?
Patrice was, I don't do it. And Patrice was known, like, if you said something to him, he would fucking tear you apart, right? He and I never did that with each other. We didn't have that kind of relationship. We would embrace. As big as he was, man, he would hug me. I used to tell him, when we go out together, you should walk out holding me in your arms. Because, you know, he was that big, man. And we never had that. And Vaughn knew it. She said, that's why he loved you, man.
Wow.
We had a very special relationship that most people didn't really understand or know about. Because if you saw us, you wouldn't even think we knew each other. But he got me, and we were honest with each other. And he respected my thinking, what I was about, because I love women. And a lot of people thought he was a misogynist, which is the furthest from the truth. He loved women. He hated how weak men became around them, how men gave up their power just to be with a woman.
I see it in front of my face every day.
Yeah, well, we all do. We live with that. But you can either
You
be
mean like
angry,
pussy whipped?
Well, to a degree, yeah. But just the things like men have lost empires
Right.
for women, you know, and
that bothered him.
It bothered him immensely because we all go through an awkward stage where no man ever gets as many women as he would like. It's biological.
Right.
Right? It's nothing, it's not disrespectful. It's biological. If you're not gay and you're with an attractive woman, you shouldn't have to explain that you'd want to be with her. It's natural. It's just natural. Women, that's why that whole thing about friends with women is so difficult. Because even if a guy would like to be friends with women, he still is interested to know what it would be like to really be with her in an intimate way. There's no reason.
Unless she's a complete bitch, and then he.
Well, yeah, but
less.
if it's about attractiveness, there's no. I mean, we're just built that way. That's how guys are, and it's not disrespectful. It's just, you know, it's how you approach women that could be disrespectful. So the things that Patrice would say to a woman is not. I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I couldn't speak like that, and he could never say the shit that I would say. Because he would say, like, magical bumblebees appear when you speak, you know what I mean?
Jeff, what do you say?
Like,
What do you say? What do you do with women? How do you fucking conduct yourself?
I speak from my heart. I just speak. I don't have a line. It's not a game.
He's just sweet.
It's not a game with me. I appreciate women for who they are. I love women, and I always have. And I have a strong feminine side, meaning that I'm not afraid to be in touch with my feelings. A lot of men are challenged by that. That you know, my sensitivity felt like a burden to me growing up, but I've allowed myself to be in touch with it, and I wear fucking pink too and purple and shit, and that doesn't threaten me. People say, well, I pull it off because I'm confident enough. I don't have to prove anything, you know. So maybe women feel comfortable with what I say. I don't know. It's not a game. I'm not part of that. You know, there's a seduction community. Are you familiar with that?
Of course.
Yeah. So to me, that's bullshit because it's a game. I don't want to run a game on a girl. I want her to be with me because she wants to be with me, not because I convinced her. You know, years ago, you had to get girls drunk in order to have sex with them.
Years ago, Chris did that last night.
But the concept is that girls had to make believe that they didn't know what they were doing. The next day, you could never talk to them about it. You couldn't say, wow, that was amazing last night. Because the girl had to make believe that she didn't really want to do it. And the guy would be all cool with his friends, like, you know what I did last night? You know who I was with and shit?
Right.
But on the surface, guys are acting cool, but they're going away with this underlying feeling that they made somebody do something that they didn't really want to do. So guys are walking around with this guilt because nobody really wants to make somebody feel like they did something that they didn't really want to do. So women have to cop to it, like say, I'm with you because I want to be with you. I might not want to be with you tomorrow, but right now I'm into having sex with you. I want to, you know, have an intimate experience with you. And it is what it is. As a society, you know, I wrote an article for Penthouse, and it was about sexuality and spirituality. It was a cover story about the possibility of finding God through sex. It's the reason why all over the world, when people are coming, they say, oh my God. In every country in the world, nobody teaches them that.
My girls usually say, Jesus Christ.
They say that.
Because an orgasm is when you're
because you know it's a spiritual experience.
You're close to God at that point.
Theoretically, in the ancient days, that was the thought that in the seventh chakra, which is the chakra of ecstasy, when you're coming,
top of your head.
That's exactly right. When you're coming,
Chris, she's a Scorpio.
You supposedly can communicate with God, and you can ask for something that you want in your life if you can maintain your center. You know, most orgasms come really quickly. The idea of Tantra is to maintain that, to prolong that feeling sometimes for hours.
So should I be making wishes during orgasms?
You should try to make a wish list. If you can make yours last that long, that would be very cool.
Is that like rubbing the genie?
But
now
theoretically,
you're dating Frank, Chrissy, so you're not currently having orgasms
Not
right now.
at this particular minute. No, I'm trying to host
See,
a
that's
show.
what guys do to each other.
Yeah, it's true.
See, and we laugh about it, and and it's fun. It can be fun, but some people come away more sensitive than others.
Right.
Like, people don't tend to do it to me because they can get a sense that I don't really like it. I did Robert Kelly's podcast, and we talked a lot about that because all the guys do that with each other.
Robert Kelly, Bob Kelly is one of the worst.
But he didn't do it with me. And he said to me on the air, he goes, I would never do that with you. And I said, that's very cool.
Wow.
Because you write for the roasts.
I can write, when I used to write for the roast, I would ask, is there something that they don't want to be said about them? Some people are sensitive about their physical appearance. I would always ask before I wrote jokes, because I never wanted to hurt anybody's feelings. Because I'm very anti-bullying, and roasting is a form of bullying. And what the shit that guys do to each other also is a form of bullying. And I don't like it. It's not healthy.
We roasted Frank last past summer.
No, look, I wrote some of the nastiest shit for roast. I wrote for the Friars
Club.
roast.
You could be brutal.
Right, but I would always ask, is there something they don't like? Some people are uncomfortable with certain physical aspects of themselves, and I wouldn't embarrass them by saying it. Some people are very cool. They'll talk about anything about themselves.
Well, we did that before that we asked JC. He said small dick. He didn't want us to talk about it.
Hilarious.
What would you say, Jeffrey, are the three most important rules for writing a good roast joke?
Well, I always use the bio, and I would look at facets of the person's life. There's no really rules. It's like you're asking people, like, how do you write a song? You're a comedian.
Just feel it, yeah.
So, yeah, you just feel it. But I would use real facts. I would work from a bio.
That's where it's at, baby.
Yeah, and when I wrote for people, if they were somebody from out of town, I would work from a tape of theirs. Because as a writer, you need to write in that person's voice.
Wow.
It's not enough to write your joke, like a joke that you would say. You have to write it in the way that they would say it. So when I'd write for Rodney, I would hear his voice. One time, and I'm so fucked up with technology, one time he gives me the right to tape his act. He never did that. He didn't like people to tape his act, but he goes, Jeff, you could tape it for me, right? And then you could work from the tape. So at the end of his act, I turn the tape recorder, it's blank. I pressed the wrong button. And I didn't even know how to fucking tell him. I'm like, oh man, I have a blank tape. That's the kind of shit that happens to me all the time. Like, I ruin shit for myself. Like, Rodney gives me a chance to tape his act, and I don't fucking tape it.
I think it is, Jeffrey, because you're so empathetic and you're so sensitive to other people. I think that's what makes you a really good comedy writer for other people, because you're able to, like, really feel.
I feel what they feel.
Yeah.
I'm an empath. I'm very involved in healing and energy, which is a big part of comedy, by the way. When you're on stage, you're putting out energy, and the audience is picking up on it. And I mean, we experience it all the time. If you walk into a room full of people and one person is really angry, you can feel it, man. And it's the same as one person is very happy. Also,
100%.
You can feel it. We're all very sensitive. Animals do it like automatically. But as people, we're taught to second guess ourselves. We're not in touch with our intuition. Usually our intuition is very strong. They say, women's intuition is very strong. It's not just the cliche.
No, it's true.
It's really true. But they're taught not to trust it. They're taught, give people the benefit of the doubt, give them a second chance. But most of the time, your first impression is the right one. If you meet somebody,
are you saying that to
weird
just
vibe,
women or everyone?
People.
Well, women stronger, but people in general. You meet people all the time. Some people give you a really weird vibe, and you meet them. Some people you feel like you've known them forever. That's true. That's very real, because we're sensitive, and you can feel it from a person. And that's a good thing, and you should learn to trust your intuition.
Love it.
Jeffrey, how did this become important to you? You were saying as a child you were able to feel other people's energy and kind of like take people's pain away, and then you got more involved with like Reiki and chakra balancing. And
yeah, I was only a little kid. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I already knew that I could take away certain pain with my hands. And it's weird because no one taught that to me. And it's what opened me up to the concept of past lives. Is there any water here? I'm starting to choke on something. Got any water?
Yeah.
I'm very open to certain things. Like, nobody knows if past lives are true or not. But what I say is, how can it diminish you to open your mind to a positive thought like that? It's like people say, is there a God or not, right? You know, nobody, it's arrogant to say that you know whether there is or isn't, especially to say that there isn't. So how does it diminish you to be open to the fact that there is some force in the world that is greater than you? So I open my mind to all positive thinking because it can't hurt me to do that. So I think that I was given a gift. Sometimes you'll hear about these 3-year-old child piano prodigies. They're musical geniuses. To me, it makes sense that it could come from a previous life. So how does it hurt you to be open to that concept? It doesn't. There's nothing there that takes away from that. So I think that my gift was given to me. Thank you very much. And I used it all my life. And then when I became a teenager, I was telling Chrissy, and I started going out with girls. A lot of girls get pain when they get their period, and I knew how to take it away. I called it Jeffrey's famous stomach operation. And I was doing psychic surgery. I would use my finger, and I would take away what was causing the pain.
Jeff, get out of here now with this stuff.
It's weird.
Are you serious? Can you still do this now?
I do it all the time. When I was in practice, I used to teach at NYU, and I was in the oral medicine and orofacial pain department, and my specialty was headaches and physical body pain that's caused by stress. And they let me lecture on that at a major university because they saw me. I was there for 12 years, and they saw me working on people and taking away pain with my hands. It doesn't always work 100% of the time. I was working on someone for headaches, and I accidentally cured a sinus condition that she had since she was a child. Wow. That no one had ever been able to help her with. Once you put the energy into people, it does what it does. And it's not from me. I'm a channel for universal healing energy. And everyone has the gift. It's like if you've ever been upset and someone gives you a hug and you feel better afterwards, it's because you allowed them to transfer positive energy to you. That's a very simple example of transferring energy from one person to another. So I do that, you know, and I'm a very big believer in that. And I use it on myself. You know, I'm a big believer in thought, the power of thought. I was telling Chrissy on the way up, I was a very severe stutterer until I was in my 20s. I couldn't even say my name. I stuttered so badly. And I'm glad that we could talk about this for a moment, because I'm sure there are people in your audience who know people who stutter.
Absolutely.
And it's important that they know that they can be helped, because I developed a cure that I used on myself, and I teach people how not to stutter. It's a mind thing. It's about confidence. It's about self-esteem. And I had to change the way I think. And all of us are holding thoughts that may not be valid for us. A lot of the things that we think are negative thoughts about ourselves. I had a very low self-esteem, I guess, for whatever reason. And I had to raise my self-esteem to feel good enough that I didn't have to stutter anymore. And as you can see, I don't. But it took me years of hard work until I could convince my subconscious mind that I didn't need to stutter.
And that's why your swag is like that. You wear whatever you want to wear. You rock your hair how you want it. And this is who you are. And you're confident in your own skin.
It's important to develop a persona for yourself. Every person should. Somebody that they feel comfortable with. Nobody gives you that. You have to develop that on your own. So I just evolved into this person, and sometimes I'll see a picture of myself. I say, I look fucking crazy sometimes. My hair looks insane. but then I'm like, you know, I get it. I mean, I use it. I talk about it in my act, you know.
Do you use hairspray?
It just evolved. I use a lot of different... When I travel, man, I'm like fucking Elizabeth Taylor. I have like 5 suitcases just for my hair. It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Do you tease? Do you do a comb back?
No, I don't tease it. I just dry it that way, and then I use different things on it, and...
Chrissy,
it's a process.
Can we please get, because you heard Jeff do all this stuff from this, can we get him to rap? Like, I hear freestyles, or at least knows.
I don't know how to rap.
But you know, like, words and lyrics. I just used to,
like, bitch better have my money, but I haven't done that. And so I didn't know that was Patrice's, I used to know all the words, the bitch better have my money. And when Patrice and I first
the Rihanna song?
got together.
No, not the Rihanna
song. The original AMG, 1991, motherfucker.
Yo, Gypsy, can you just... Jeff, what do you got, Jeff? If you could just spit a little bit, not the whole song, just maybe a verse.
It ain't nothing like black pussy on my dick. Word to the motherfucker DJ Quick.
Hey, yo!
But you gotta start with, it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing like...
It ain't nothing like, oh,
like black
man.
pussy on my dick. Word to the motherfucker DJ Quiff. I see. I don't remember it. I used to know every word. It's weird, but that was back in '08, man.
Yeah.
So I played that song all the time. That happened to be my favorite.
Why
song.
did you play the
Bitch better have
song?
my money. Well, I used to drive a pimp mobile. I didn't tell you that story. There was a time in my life when I was tired of my ethnicity. And I had met this black pimp from Maryland, and I was very impressed with his lifestyle. He had a gold Eldorado, and it was like a crazy car, and it had a clear bubble over the driver's seat and one over the passenger seat. And I'm like, this is who I want to be, right? So I go to buy a car for myself. It was my first car, and I go to a place called Dick Gidron in the Bronx. No white man ever went in there, right? And I tell the guy, I want a car, I want a different car, and he says, I got a Mandarin Orange Eldorado. It had been made for one of the Isley brothers, and he decided not to take it. Now, there's a tie-in to this story that I'll tell you. So I get the car, and I put a Rolls-Royce grill on it, because that's what the pimps did in those days. They pimped it out. Wait, this is way before MTV and shit, right? And I had the big white wall tires and straps in the back and shit. And it had doctor's plates on it. And my wife is like, we're Jewish and we live in Scarsdale. Why am I driving an orange Cadillac? I'm like, you don't get it. I'm playing Superfly on an 8-track tape player, because that's all they had back then. I had a CB radio in the shape of a telephone, because there was no car phone. But I had this CB radio. And that's how I got up to Saturday Night Live. That's how I started writing comedy. When I drove that car, cops would follow me, pimps and hookers would check me out, and it had doctor's plates on it.
You were a dentist, though. You were a dentist.
That's why I had the plates, man. So I pulled up to 30 Rock, and in those days, there was no terrorism, so 30 Rock was open. You could pull right up to the building. There was
nothing stopping.
I pull up in that car. When you pull up in that car, everybody's looking, right? I throw the doorman a few dollars, and I'm saying, watch my car, Lorne Michaels is expecting me. Right? So I had crazy balls in those days, right?
Wow.
So I go in, and I have this tape of films. I was making films on the street, and they were very strange films. They were like false news items. It was like several men were arrested for smearing cream cheese on the ankles of elderly women who wore their stockings rolled down like bagels. You ever see the old women?
This is like before the Onion was the Onion.
It looks like, well, I wrote for Weekly World News, you know. So I got my grandmother, who was the nicest person in the world, to make believe that she had a Jewish accent, and she let me put cream cheese on her ankles. Who does that to their own grandmother? I rolled down her stockings, put cream cheese on her ankles, and I shoot it with this like Super 8 camera. And I bring it up to Saturday Night Live. Oh, and I was also doing a story about the masters of disguise. They were master criminals who disguised themselves as inanimate objects to commit their crimes. So it starts out as 2 men disguised as coats rob a hat store. They come in over the arms of 2 other men, and they say, just act natural like wear your coats and nobody will get hurt. Hilarious. And so police do drawings of the perpetrators, and it's 2 coats. And I did all these crimes by the masters of disguise. So I put this all together, and I sneak into Saturday Night Live, and I sneak past the security guard, which you cannot do these days. They fucking shoot at you. Mm-hmm. But in those days, it was cool. And I got up to Saturday Night Live, and Alan Zweibel, they were all just kids. The show was new. Alan Zweibel, who has gone on to become an award-winning writer, director, everything. He's playing handball on the wall with a guy named Neil Levy, who was Lorne Michaels' cousin. He was one of the producers of Saturday Night Live. And I tell him about my films, and he says, well, let me see them. He says, this shit is crazy. I never saw anything like that. And he called his manager. He didn't just give me a phone number. He called him on my behalf and asked him to meet with me. And that guy was David Jonas, who died about a year ago at 100 years old. Wow. He's the guy who was managing Freddie Prinze and got him Chico and the Man. So we're talking like some serious shit then. And that's how I got started writing comedy. But it was that car. I pulled up in that car, man. That was my pimp's car.
Jeffrey Gurian, ladies and gentlemen.
Amazing.
We are not worthy.
We have to have you back, Jeffrey. There's so many
I'm sorry that I have so many stories.
No, don't be sorry.
We're sorry we don't have enough time.
You're fabulous.
But one of the Isley brothers actually came over to me and told me that was the car. About a year ago, when I did Kroll Show. He came over to me at a party, and I got confirmation after all those years. He goes, that was my Uncle Marvin's car. He knew the car.
Jeffrey, where can people find you to look for show dates?
Okay, my website is jeffreygurian.com, Jeffrey. Don't spell it E-R-Y. That's like Jeffrey the Giraffe. It's JeffreyGurian.com. I'm in the Interrobang. I'm on Sirius XM every Tuesday on the Bennington Show. for the last couple of years. My column comes out every Monday in the Interrobang. You got to know about that. It's called Jumping Around with Jeffrey Gurian.
Top comedy blog in the industry, baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about Jump Around, man. House of Pain's Jump Around. Best party song ever. On Twitter, at Jeffrey Gurian. Instagram, at Jeffrey Gurian.
Where can people see you this week? You said you're headlining?
I'm headlining New York Comedy Club Wednesday night. This Wednesday night, March 2nd. 7 p.m. show, and then I'm doing Chrissy Mayer show.
Yeah, this Saturday, March 5th.
The big Pride show at the
Stonewall.
Benefit
at Stonewall.
The Stonewall.
Yeah.
That's going to be
awesome.
crazy. I'm wearing my pink jacket, so come.
I can't wait.
Show up.
I'm so excited.
Come out
for
and
that.
support. And this has been so fun, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, we're so glad
awesome,
we could
dude.
have you. You're like the coolest person we've had so far.
Well, thank you so much, and it's such a great set too. You guys, it's amazing here. It's really very cool.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Really quick, where can we find you, Frank and JC?
At Frankie P614. Ha Comedy Club in Rich Hill opens March 11th with Jackie the Joke Man Martling. So go to harichhill.com and nomacomedy.com.
JC Knows Best. Google me. Check out the web series Comedians: Why We're Messed Up. Talks a lot of shit that Jeff was kicking here. Real shit. I love it.
Tommy Grassi and Chris Vack, real quick.
TomGrassiComedy.com. Check out at Tom Grassi Comedy on Twitter.
Chris Vack.
Chris Vaccarelli on Facebook.
Yay!
And what?
Just say Google.
Thank you guys so much for check us out next week. We have Gladys Simon. I am Chrissy Mayer at ChrissyMayer.com.
Woo!
Bye.